Label. My name is Traci. I am the owner of Crimson Beauty Salon. I can be found on Instagram at Crimson Beauty Salon, on TikTok at Crimson Beauty Salon, also on Facebook, but I'm really not there that much, but it's at Crimson Beauty Salon. I am here today to show you guys some tips and tricks that I use on how I make my custom wig units on my sewing machine. The type of machine I use is a little bit different. I use a Janome New Home Sew Is 500. The only reason, or the main reason why I feel like it's different is because of this level here. It actually goes up and it helps me to get my wigs out. So that's why I like this particular machine. You can use whatever you have, and that's totally fine. I'm going to go over some things so that you can make your units along with me. So first, you're definitely going to have your machine. You're also going to have your wig block, and you want to use your hair, whichever kind of hair you're wanting to use. Of course, we're at Private Label, so we're going to be using our Brazilian straight 22-inch hair bundles, and we have 3 today. We are using a 5x5 closure as well, and we're using a adjustable cap. So I'll go over some of the caps that I like to use and continue with some of the things that you're going to need. You are going to need a seam ripper. You never know when you make a mistake and you want to get those seams out. You want to use that. Some people use chalk, but I eyeball everything. It could get you in trouble. You never know. But if you are a beginner, definitely use your chalk outline. I also like to bring extra needles just to go in my machine in case they pop, and that has happened. Trust me, you don't want that to happen and you have nothing else to use, so you want to keep that on hand. You also want to use some scissors, not shears. Shears are going to be used for the hair cutting and things like that, so you want to use something that can cut material and thread and get you out of those binds when you need to. So these are very strong and sharp. You also want a spool of thread. The first thing we do when you're using a closure or anything like that, a closure or frontal, you want to sew it down first, and then you want to have some extra bobbins, some extra threading, some extra hair in case you need it. Different caps that I use. One of my favorite caps is this one. The only thing about this one though is it does not have an adjustable strap. You can add one, but it does not come with one. And you can add adjustable straps to just about any of the units. The cap that I'm using today is similar to this one. I'll go ahead and open it for you guys so you can see. I get this cap from Amazon. It comes with 2 inside and they're about $10 each. So you can charge accordingly. Especially if you're buying this outright. And so this cap that I'm using today, this one happens to be a small, but the one I'm using is a medium, but this is what it looks like. So it has like the little mesh on the sides. The lace in the top is usually where your closure goes, and then you have your adjustable strappings. And like I said, these are about $10 on Amazon. You can find those. You can also buy these on Amazon. My favorite one is the 5011. It's a mesh dome cap, my favorite. The only thing about that is if you put too many bundles in, it can get kind of tight. It definitely usually fits about a medium head. But if you put too much hair in your bundles, it's going to fit really tight and it's going to change the size of the cap and all of that. So you want to be careful with that when you're making units using that particular cap. Outside of that, I did go ahead and get started. I do also have my glasses in case I need to thread this needle because your girl getting older. I won't say old, I'm getting older. And the vision is one of those first things that goes, so I have to have my glasses on hand. So I have already went ahead and if you are new here, thanks for coming. But if you have been with us before, then you know that we basically pin this down, stitch it with our thread and needle, and then we go in and sew it under the machine. So because I've already done that extra step, we're gonna go ahead and get started. And so if you're gonna make a unit along with us and you have all of your supplies, please feel free to join us. In the comment section, go ahead and let us know that you're making a unit too by adding a spool of thread or some scissors. We love to see it. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. Always, 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 you're going to make sure that you backstitch. So I'm going to go ahead and let my level down here. And I'm going to make sure that I start, and then I'm going to also backstitch on here. You want to backstitch to make sure that everything is nice and flush. And we're going to see how fast we can get this unit done. We want to also thank Private Label for inviting us to come out and show you guys this. This is a thing that I have been doing now over 5 years, and I enjoy making units. I consider myself to be a ghost wig maker. What is that, Tracy? A ghost wig maker is basically, I will make wigs for other hairstylists around the city of Atlanta, and they pay me, but you guys don't know I made it. So I've made definitely some celebrity wigs. I don't know who they are, but I'll get a stylist and say, hey, I got a very important unit I need to be made, and I need it on the fly, and I make it. But, you know, here nor there, I am here to service anyone. All of my clients are celebrities in my eyes, so there you have it. So we are finished with the top. We went around and just reinforced the stitching that we are already done. And if you are doing this, yours should look similar to this. And what I also like to do is go ahead and cut that center part out. You'll have this spacing in here, but once you cut that out, it'll look a lot different. So what I like to teach you guys is to cut on top of your finger. You're not going to cut yourself, but you want to make sure you do not cut your client's closure. This just so happens to be our HD closures, so it's very fine and thin, which gives that client the look of their scalp without having to do a whole lot of bleaching and stuff like that. So you want to cut on top of your finger by basically using it as a barrier, because who wants to buy another closure for their client when they don't have to? Just be really careful and precautious, right? So we're going to go ahead and get rid of this intersection here. If you have any questions, feel free to ask away. Of course, I am making a unit right now, so I can't answer until I get done and I see the questions. So if you have them, just kind of stay tuned to the chat and I'll come back and I'll answer anything for you guys, okay? I'm just still cutting this off, and we're going to see again how fast we can get this done. Again, it's not a race at all by any means, but the purpose of using the sewing machine is so you can kind of do more than one in a day. So when you get done, it should look similar to this. And you also want to go back and make sure that you got as close to that threading as possible. Anytime I see a little bit over that could hang over into the front hairline, I go ahead and cut that off. In the back, it doesn't matter so much, but at the top, definitely. Any threads you see along the way, also go ahead and get those cut off, because you don't want to have to spend a whole lot of time doing maintenance at the end. This one, you are going to be able to do baby hairs. And so it doesn't, I don't know if this one has the baby hairs already on here, but we'll see here real quick. So yeah, it does have room for baby hairs. You can kind of pull that out and do what you will. This being a 5x5 closure, you can really make this part go anywhere. It could go to the left, to the right, to the center. It does not matter. You'll just mold it like you would any other style, and use a hot comb to press it out and sit it under the dryer. But this is going to be a good start and a good foundation. I'm just trying to make sure you guys can see that. But you see that it's already kind of pre-plucked in there. And like I said, you're going to comb this over so you won't see those sides once you get it all in, and kind of come up with whatever style. You can even make this into a bang, and that's going to work perfectly fine as well. So different things that you can do. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn my mannequin head around. Again, my mannequin's name is Jenny, and I call her Jenny because this is a block head, and I just call her Jenny from the block. Very generic, nothing fancy. Jenny's going to be our guest model here today. So we're going to just pull this down. I don't stitch in here, but I use everything as a point of reference, right? And so as my point of reference, we have the little tag in the middle, and that says medium. So this is a medium size. These caps come small, medium, or large. And the mannequin heads come in a 21, 22, and a 23, which again is a small, medium, or large. So this is a 22 head, which fits my 22, fits my medium cap. And so typically what I use as my point of reference is I start my first seam along the lines of here. So again, in the beginning, I said we use chalk. Some people use chalk. I personally don't, because I always find myself that I eyeball it anyway, and I don't use it. And it probably could be a good thing to do, but if you're in the beginning stages, definitely use it. This particular wig cap, as I stated before, has adjustable straps. And so they don't come already laced, so you would want to go ahead and lace it through the little hoops, and then you can put them as tight as you want or as loose as you want as you are styling it for your client. As you're making it though, I either don't have them hooked at all or I have them on the very last hook. And so we're gonna go ahead and get started by unwinding our first bundle. And so we'll just take that to the side. This hair is very pretty, you guys. This is again the 22-inch Brazilian hair in straight, and it can be found at Private Label. You can either visit online, and I'm sure all the information will be linked in the bio or the description box. But definitely check out Private Label hair. You will not be disappointed. As I'm pulling it out, I also check to make sure that it's not shedding or anything, because one of the worst things that could happen is you make a unit and you don't have a good bundle of hair and it's shedding all over the place. Now your client's calling you back and you got to deal with that issue. And who wants to deal with issues when you can just get it right the first time? So check out Private Label for their hair and you will not be disappointed, guys, for sure. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the corner piece. And every time you start, you always want to make sure that you backstitch. And so like I said, I'm using my point of reference on the cap. And I'm going to start at the little eye hooks here on either side. And I'm going to keep going until I reach the top. This is a 5x5 closure. So in that, it should not take up the 3 bundles, but we will see. We never know. I've seen stranger things happen. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. We want to make sure that this is something that's going to be fun, entertaining, and exciting for you guys. I hope I'm not talking too fast. I am from Memphis, Tennessee, so sometimes I tend to talk fast, especially I just got back from visiting, and all of my old Memphis traits come back out, so we tend to talk a little faster with a draw. So I do a little stitching there and then I lift it up a little bit. Sometimes on these particular caps, it can get stuck, so I help it out a little bit. You want to make sure you backstitch. Backstitching is going to help to make sure that you don't have anything lifting. So you don't want it to lift at all. I sometimes flip my little medium sign down so that I can always tell what size that I'm getting out, especially if I make a bunch of these. And I want to just sell as I have them made. I can know what size it is after I measure my client, of course. I've gotten to my other point of reference. I did a quick little back stitching in there, and then I lift my needle up and we're going to cut that off. This is pretty much the general step that you're going to use throughout the entire process of making your units. The only difference is that you're going to want to sometimes curve, and we'll go over those times when you're needing to curve. All right. So every time we make a stitch, what I was taught, and I was taught by a very talented hairstylist, Tamika Gibson. Shout out to her over at the Hair Diagram. We are making this one, every time you put a stitch on, you want to come back and make sure that your bundle is laying nice and flush and that it's not bulking up at all. So I have some hair that wanted to make an appearance over here, so I'm just going to pull that hair out of that thread. That's all. And any thread that you see along the way, definitely go ahead and get rid of that. You can cut that off. Otherwise, you're going to spend the time at the end trying to do any like cleanups and things like that. And so here's your basic first stitching, and you're going to keep going up all the way until you get to the top. You can either do a finger's width apart. If you're trying to get as much hair in as possible, you want to stack it right on top. But be careful when you do that, because if you do that too much, it's going to put too much hair in the cap and it'll cause the cap to construct, to shrinking down. And so you want to make sure you can either do one finger apart or just a half of that finger right in there. So that's where the chalk comes in handy, but just kind of giving you guys my tidbit because like I said, I do eyeball it. So my next point of reference is I use that first stitching as my point of reference. So I go a little bit past that and then I just keep going. So let's keep going, guys. Again, there's no dumb question. Feel free to ask whatever question you may have, and I would love to get those answered for you. I am going to start at this bottom by trying to stack them a little closer together, like I said before, just so that underneath that occipital bone, which is where the head starts to curve, and that's the name of the bone and what it's called. And most, well, no, everyone has one. Some people, their head lies a little flatter, but that's okay. You still have an occipital bone. And so, like I said, I stitched that right on top, giving it like a half width of finger space between. And I just want to make sure that my material isn't bulking as well. And so as I get to the other side, I want to make sure that I stop at that same pretty much point of reference right there on top of that. You back stitch and come out of there and cut off any excess threads. And like I said, for me, I like to make sure that I am right on track with my bundles. And I always measure to make sure that I don't have any bulking going on in there. And so you see that it's still going and it's nice and flush. And you're going to keep going. So now we're right here at the ear tab. And we're going to use that as our point of reference. And we're going to go at a slant. Because what we don't want to have happen is that you're going straight across because hair doesn't grow out that way. And so for your units, you want them to look as close to a sew-in as possible or like that client's hair. So you don't want them to look like they have a wig on. So we're going to use those point of references on the cap and just keep going. If your strap comes undone and you're past that part, you can leave it. It doesn't have to be fastened. But we're going to come just about right there and make our stitching. And it is a piece of wire in there, so you want to kind of be careful with that. That was the one time that I had popped my needle because it went across that wire and it wasn't pretty. Like I said, you want to get really close in there. This cap is thinner than your mesh cap. So it's going to be nice and airy for your client. There's some other caps out there. I don't particularly use those. If they're real kind of elasticy, I guess if that's a word, I made it up. Don't judge me. But if it has a lot of elastic, then what can happen is that that cap will start to kind of move around on you, and I don't like that. So I like the good sturdy caps, and they're hard to find if you don't know. But I will send it to the powers that be so they can kind of link those caps in there so that you guys can have the right tools when you're making things at home. So what we're checking again here for is just trying to make sure it could have gone up a little bit more, but it is on a slant, just as long as it doesn't, you know, go straight across. but we're making sure that there's no buckle going on. So we'll make sure that that next one goes up a little bit more. So we're going to go point of reference just across the top of that ear tab, and again at a slant. And right on the edge. You want a back stitch, and then keep going. Making sure that you're not pulling the cap or pushing the cap. Your hands are just there to guide it, to make sure that it feeds through the machine. So again, we do have 3 bundles. We don't have to use all 3. We just want to have, and we actually have a 4th one here, but we only want to make sure we use what is needed, with still having a nice size unit where it's nice and full. And here I'm going to make sure that I slant upwards. And back stitch. All right, we are almost done. And like I was stating before, you don't have to use all of the hair, but if you want a full, heavy unit, then definitely you can use as much as you like. So then it's starting to have that little slant that we want. We want it to kind of go that way and not be so straight across. We only have about this much left. So what I'm going to do is keep this out because I may need it later. We're going to go ahead and start with our next bundle. Again, when you're opening it, you're wanting to pull and unwind, pull and unwind. You want to make sure that you're checking for shedding and that you don't have any excessive shedding. So you're not yanking it, you're just kind of running your fingers through so you don't see anything like coming out. There's sometimes I've seen bundles where you can just touch the hair and the hair is just like falling out as you go. So that's not a good, hair bundle to use. I don't have a name brand for it. I've seen it though happen. So if you know your bundles, use what is good, because you would hate to go through all of this work and do something and then the client can't wear it because they have hair shedding everywhere. So no one wants that. Again, if you see any threads as you're going, just cut them out. Again, you're going to have to do it at the end, but sometimes you can't see it if it's on the inside. So go ahead and get those out of your way. We're going to keep going. And again, we're going to keep going on that slant. So I got it in there. We're going to go ahead and start our first stitch and back stitch. And keep going. Again, you're not going to be pushing or pulling, you're just guiding. So just kind of guide this hair through and let the machine do the work. Now you could use a straight stitch pattern. I personally use zigzag. Zigzag for me is a little more error proof if you're starting out. And again, I have been doing this for a while, but I just so happen to like this pattern, so I'm gonna stick with it. But if straight works for you, then that's awesome too. There's no wrong way. As you get to the side, you wanna make sure that you're still going up at that slant. And then you're done, come back off and cut your thread. You want to make sure that you, again, bring it back to the mannequin head. I know this can be very repetitive, but if you do this, you don't have to wait to the end and then see a mistake and then have to try to find out where you made your mistake. So this is a good way to kind of prevent that from happening. And so you see we don't have that much left, but we're going to keep going. And that's why I do like the larger closures. It kind of gives you the feel of a frontal. I lost my train of thought. It kind of gives you the feel of a frontal without having to have a lot of glue like attached to your sideburns and things like that. The frontal can get messy sometimes, but then they're good if you can do it and pull it off. But you know, different strokes for different folks. Everybody, you know, has a preference. You want to keep going at that angle. You're just about there at that occipital bone or right on it. And so that's when you can kind of change the pattern in how you're stitching, how close you're stitching to the previous one. You want to make sure you're going up and that you're always back stitching. So again, this is going to be something that you can make for the holidays, or you can sell for the holidays if you're a stylist, or if you're looking to purchase, you can purchase this for a significant other and definitely, you know, get some cool points for having your custom units already picked out for your significant other or mom or grandparent or whoever. So we're going to still keep going. And like I said, if you go in the shape of your previous stitch is going to be your guide basically going forward. We're back stitching. And just keep going around. You want to make sure you're not pushing or pulling your material. And these are all 22 inches, so that's why I'm not stressed on using the additional hair that I have left over, because I can use it in another place because it's all the same length. What I mean by that is if we staggered them, let's just say we did a 20, 22, 24, something like that, and my 24 was on the bottom, I wouldn't want to save that hair and use it later because it's going to be longer, right? I would basically use whatever that scrap is to try to fill as much as I could on the bottom. But because it's all the same length, that part doesn't matter. And so we have it, and we are at the end of this. I could just put it right here in the center, and I think I will, just so I can have it even pretty much on both sides, just to feel. I'll go ahead and do that before I unwound the next bundle. I want to keep my finger there so I can kind of have a quick little point of reference for myself. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to stitch and I'm going to back stitch. Uh-oh. I forgot I needed to thread my needle. So what I'm going to do is stick my little pen in here so I can keep my point of reference. And then I will take you guys with me to thread my needle. So give me 1 second. Anytime you're threading your needle, guys, you want to make sure that your level is pulled up. And I don't see, oh, here it is. Let me get my glasses. It got caught, looks like, right here. And so we're gonna just kind of unhook that. This doesn't always happen, but if it does, you want to make sure you can see what is happening. So it got caught in there, and so we want to pull it out, and you see it kind of wadded the knot, wadded the thread a little bit. And so we want to start this over. We want to get a good clean break. Everyone's needle threading would be different depending on what type of machine you have. So I don't want to spend a lot of time showing you how to thread my machine, especially if you don't have my machine. But follow the steps in the guide on how to thread your machine. So we have that already. The bobbin is done. We're going to go ahead and get back to that point of reference where I was and continue with my stitching. Slide that pin out. And then stitch. Back stitch. Okay. And then we're just going to kind of keep going all the way around until that hair runs out. All right, so we got that piece of hair in there. We're going to cut our loose threads because that's in the middle. Definitely don't want that. Client be curling their hair. It's like, why is that burning? It won't burn, but you know, you just don't want that. All right, you're going to put that on. And it kind of just made that nice and flush for us. And so now we pretty much know that we can get that last bundle in without having to go into the fourth bundle, because that's all we have left. And we have a full track here, and we have a little bit left in there. So if we need it, we'll use it. How are you guys coming with your units? If you are making units along with me, definitely we would like to see it. Show us your content. Again, we're pulling through, making sure that there's no snags or anything like that, nothing shedding. If you're looking for a hair company and you're in Atlanta, there's about 4 locations here that you can actually come into the boutique and shop with us. Or you can order online and they'll get it shipped out to you. Or if you're in the salon and you need hair quickly, they can get that hair over to you within the same day. So all good pointers. And yes, same day, I said it. They can get the hair to you in the same day. I think there's a time on it, but pretty much for the most part, you can get the hair in the same day. So look into it. Back stitch and keep going. Still going on an angle to kind of curve upward. And just feeding through the machine. You want to cut off that weft and any excess thread, and then definitely make sure you're back stitched. Okay, drop the pin. And we're still nice and flush. We're just going to keep going. We have just a little bit more left to go. I hate calling the number saying, oh, we got 2 more. And then it ends up being like 3. Kind of like that last braid if you're getting braids and it looks like, oh, that's 2. And then they do 10. So we're going to keep going. Almost there though. Not much longer. Uh-oh. Not sure what quite happened. But I pulled that out because I heard a sound at my machine. So I want to check. Yeah, my bobbin popped though. So we'll have to rethread that. All right. Sometimes things happen, and so this is live, so we have to keep rolling with the punches. We're going to take it back to where we actually stopped and keep going. Also, like I said, keep out for a listen on your machine, because once you know your machine, you know the sounds that it should make, you can tell when something is wrong. Okay, so we are definitely at the top. wanting to make sure that we get a nice flat and smooth surface. I'm going to go ahead and switch this bobbin out. I'm not sure what's happening, but I heard it do something else before we stopped that last one, so I'm going to use another one. And hopefully we don't run out. But if we do, like I said, it's all good. We can lace it and do it over. Oh, that's what's happening. My thread is in there. In the wrong place. Okay, we got the bobbin threaded down here. Put our cap back on and let's keep going. All right, so you guys see that we're almost done. We have plenty of hair left, so I think we'll get through it without having to use that third bundle. I'm sorry, the fourth bundle, because we've got 3 in at this point. We're coming up on this very last track here at the corner. There we go. Make sure you backstitch. I can't say it enough. I think we may have 1, maybe 2 more tracks. We'll see. I think it may be 1. It might just be 1, you guys. Let's take a look. Yep, 1, and if we have anything that we need to fill, we have some extra right here. But we'll try to make it this last one. You want to get right next to the edge of the closure and start your track. Backstitch. So we did run out just maybe a fraction of an inch, and we're gonna back stitch that and then come off and then just go right back in it with the new piece just to complete it to the end. And back stitch. And so that is how that's done. Just like that. We'll cut that off. Have about that much left. We did 3 bundles. The inside looks like this. Again, you'll go through and cut off any of your excess threading. We already cut the center out. This is a 22-inch Brazilian straight. And this is a 5x5 closure. And so that's how it's done. There's no more, you can't see anything through or any peekaboos or anything like that with showing the cap. So we are done. We just did a 5x5, 22-inch straight closure unit. And my name again is Tracy. It has been my pleasure showing you guys my tips and tricks on how I make my custom units. I can be reached at Crimson Beauty Salon on Instagram, Crimson Beauty Salon on TikTok. And if you need a wig made, just send me a DM. I do answer. And yeah, so it's been my pleasure. It's been fun, you guys. I love to see you, see your comments. Thanks so much